Okay. Hi, Sandy.
Hi, Bobby.
I'm Bobbi Palmer. I'm the dating and relationship coach for women over 40. But more importantly, you are here today to learn how to set your boundaries in love and in life. So you're in the right place if that's what you're here to learn. I'm Bobbi Palmer again. I'm the founder of Date Like a Grown Up. My website is datelikeagrownup.com. We don't do really long introductions here because we want to get to the stuff, right?
Yeah.
Take it, Sandy.
I'm Sandy Weiner, and I also coach women over 40 to have lasting, loving relationships. And boundary setting is a huge part of healthy, lasting relationships. So that's the topic for today, how to set clear boundaries and healthy boundaries in life and in love. And why are boundaries important? So boundaries keep you safe, emotionally safe. Boundaries keep you sane, and boundaries keep you dignified. Boundaries are there when you know your values, when you know who you are and what you stand for and what you're aligned with. You need to teach that to other people by setting clear boundaries. And so whether you're doing it with your children, with your coworkers, with a love interest, it's so important. Hi, MJ Love Coach. That's Michelle Jacoby.
Yeah, hey, Michelle.
So yes, boundaries are so important. So Bobby, if you can talk about
boundaries.
Yes, boundaries.
Yeah, so here's the thing about, I love how you said that, by the way, Sandy, about how it maintains your dignity. I just was looking on my website, comments on a post that I wrote about, when to know when to break up with him. And a woman wrote something about how she's been in two relationships, one after the other, and really mistreated. And that's what's now missing from her. She's missing her trust in herself, and she's missing feeling proud of herself, which is her dignity. So it's really important. So let's talk about the first step to setting boundaries, and that is knowing what they are. That is, you are responsible for making a clear decision, for articulating what it is that you want and what it is you need in order to be happy, in order to feel the way that you want to feel, you need to feel in a relationship. So if you look at that in real life, it's not enough to say to your partner, I'm not happy. You're not making me happy. It's not enough to say to your partner, you need to be better at this. You need to do more of this. You need to be really clear about what he needs to do. There's a couple reasons for that. One is, well, the most important reason is he's a man. So he's a man. He wants to please you. He 99% of the guys out there, they really want to please you, but he can't read your mind, and he can't even hardly imagine what you need and what you want most of the time, because he doesn't think like you. So the first step in setting boundaries is defining very clearly, very succinctly, even quantifiably, what you want and need. So notice I keep saying it's about you. This isn't about he has to do this, he has to do that. This is about, in order for me to feel safe, in order for me to feel happy, in order for me to feel dignified, this is what I want and need. So these are the big things, the important things. It's not, I need to set a boundary because it's he leaves the cheese out on the counter at night, which is an example I use all the time because Larry does that and it drives me crazy. But that's not for me. When I look at it, that's not about my dignity. That's not about my happiness. That's just a little thing that bugs me. But here are some examples of things that will help you to think about and articulate in advance. And I'm talking about your personal boundaries. So, for instance, what do you need in order to feel safe, physically, emotionally, spiritually, when it comes to intimacy. So a boundary that you might set for yourself is, I will not be intimate with someone until this. And Sandy's going to talk to you about how to do this. A personal boundary might be, you know that you have a past pattern of picking the wrong men. And so a personal boundary for you, this is taking care of yourself, right? Might be, I will not judge men in this specific way, the pattern that you used to use. And I've got an airplane. I'm sorry about that. It's what happens when you're live. So
set a boundary with that airplane.
Yeah, I wish. So you see what I mean? It's not him. It's not what he has to do. It's what you have to do for yourself. Okay. So another one might be, I will be open to dating men who, or these are the personal boundaries. Okay. And when you're setting a boundary for, let's go back to your intimacy. When you talk about what your boundary is, again, you need to be clear, you need to be succinct, and if you can, you need to be quantifiable. That helps the man. So if you're gonna set your personal boundary, let's say, this is my recommendation, I will not be intimate with a man until we have had a discussion about a relationship and we are exclusive and monogamous, until we maybe have had testing, until we have talked about safe sex and we are both in agreement on how we're going to practice it. That may be an example of a boundary that you can set that's very succinct. And when you have that means when it's getting close, when he asks to have sex, when he wants to invite you over, you can say to him, there's some things, I'm really into you and I want to jump in bed with you, but there's some things that you need to know that are important to me before I do that. And you will know what's clear, rather than the next day when you wake up in the morning and you say, wow, I guess we're intimate. I mean, I guess we're exclusive.
Or,
we haven't had those
or
conversations. Yeah. So this is about taking care of this part of boundary setting is about really being clear and taking care of yourself. So you can start your list with I will or I won't, right? I will or I won't. Mm-hmm. And that's about you.
I just want to say something that I like a lot about what you said. I like a lot of things that you said, but first of all, if you're not going to sleep with a man when he wants you to sleep with him, and we're talking to women now, but same thing would be for men. Some men wouldn't want to sleep with a woman when they want to sleep with her. If you are attracted, to let the person know. And that's the first thing. It's not just slamming them down and saying, hey, you're moving too fast for me. Because that's what a lot of women do. And that's a big turnoff. And I want to share something somebody recently shared with me, that she wasn't ready and she had major trust issues from her last relationship and she wanted to move slowly. And this guy was so kind and so understanding, and he gave her a hug and he said, you're safe with me. I love that.
Oh, I love that.
Isn't that sweet? Yeah. So they're in an amazing, amazing relationship. He waited for her to be ready. They just had an incredible connection, but he was respectful because she knew how to say what she needed to say with dignity. Yeah.
Wow. And I see that time and time again. I see that with the women that I coach time and time again. They're so afraid to do it, right, Sandy? I mean, it's a scary thing. Like, I know you want this, but I don't. And to actually communicate that time and time again over all the years I've been coaching, I see the men, the good guys, especially the grown-up men, be so respectful and so appreciative that they know exactly what she needs to be happy. And she's communicated that, and that she's taking care of herself. You want a really strong man, right? You want a man who's grounded. You want a man who's responsible. You want a man who takes care of himself and has his own life. And he wants that from you too. So when you stand up for yourself and say, hey, I really dig you, which by the way, like Sandy reiterated, is really an important part. Not just, I'm not going to sleep with you until this happens. It's like, hey,
Yeah.
I think you're really hot. Yeah, I think you're really hot, and I really want to be in bed with you, but I'm going to take care of myself this way first. So when you do that, a good man will respect it, he will appreciate it, and he will see that you're relationship material.
Yes, and he'll know that when you do sleep with him, it's special, and you're special. And so you put up, your value goes up and he values you more, and it's all good with the right person. The wrong person, you'll know right away. Okay, bye-bye, next person. And you won't get your heart broken because you slept with somebody and then wondered why they never called you back, which happens so often because you go in with hope and without any clear communication, and then you're heartbroken. So you don't have to be blindsided when you're clear. Okay, should we go to step 2?
Sure. Let's do it. And ladies and men and gentlemen, if you have any questions, we would love your questions. I mean, this is a open forum. So
interactive. Yeah, ask questions. So what is step 2 is how to clearly, kindly set your boundaries. So the kindness and the clarity are both important. So the way to do it is, first of all, to understand what your needs are. And I have my clients write an operating manual for themselves. And that is basically, if you were to open it and give this to a guy, if he were to open it, he would know exactly what you need and want, because you know what you need and want to be happy. And, I had a client the other day who was getting really resentful because she was being overly kind to some of her clients by not charging them enough. And then she felt they were taking advantage of her. Well, that's not setting a clear boundary. So that's a boundary in life, that if you own your value, you know your value, you set your value, the wrong people, will not be working with you because they'll say, I can't afford you. The right people will hire you and will value you. So it's really about not being a people pleaser, but really pleasing yourself first. Okay, so what's some common things that come up in dating is texting. Texting is ick. Bobbi just gave the thumbs down and the eye roll. So people get stuck in these text conversations. They hate them. They want to get off text and get into a date. You want to get on a phone call. You want to move out of texting. Texting is often miscommunication. It's people's feelings get hurt. Nobody knows what you're talking about, and it's just not a good idea. So unfortunately, people text all the time. It's the most common way to communicate. But if texting doesn't work for you, you let a man know that I don't like texting until, except for whatever it is that's important to you. So I only like to text for information, for facts, like the place we're going to meet, or if somebody's going to be late, that's fine. But as I get to know a man, I really like to speak to him on the phone and meet him in person. How does that work for you? And so you're checking back in with him, but you're stating your needs up front. Okay, so texting is one of them. Then the whole being touched, being kissed before you're ready. So we talked a little bit about that, but like I think, Bobbi, you already really addressed that. And in the same way as you don't want to have sex before you're ready, you want to also have a boundary around personal space. And so you can just say nicely, it takes me a little bit of time to get to know somebody. I'm really attracted to you, just something like that. The same thing with being a pen pal. A lot of people get stuck in online dating emails, and oh my God, they can be hellish because you never move out of email. And I'm not a big proponent of long introduction. I'm a big believer that you got to get in front of somebody as soon as possible, because somebody can seem completely different on an email or even on the phone than they are in person. And boy, have I made those mistakes where I built somebody into somebody he was not through phone calls and emails. And I learned my lesson. So, again, I'm really enjoying getting to know you by email. But the way I really get to know a man is by hearing his voice or by meeting him. So you state what you need in a kind, connected way. Where to meet for the first date. That's another area where you set your boundary. So some people want 10-hour dates. They want to meet you at a fancy restaurant. And again, if you're meeting somebody for the first time, and especially in online dating, it's a blind date, and it's what Bobbi calls a meet date. And I agree. This is just to meet and see if you are interested in a second meeting or a first date. So if somebody invites you to something extravagant, I mean, somebody once invited me to opera in a box seat for a first date. I didn't know him. I did not want to travel an hour to Manhattan and sit in his box seat with him and have dinner when I didn't know him. Well, he was convinced from my profile that we were meant for each other. And he was new.
Falling in love with the profile.
Oh, yes. Falling in love with the profile. Big no-no. But again, I wouldn't say to him, hey, you don't know me, be bitchy. I let him know that I just would love to meet him for coffee or a drink and see if there's a connection. And if there is, then maybe that would be a nice future date. So there's a nice way to say what you need. The same thing with hiking. A lot of guys have wanted to go on like 3-hour hikes with me before I knew them. And I, again, said that sounds like a great date if we do connect, but I don't want to spend 3 hours with you in the woods if I don't know you, buddy. Yeah. And then another boundary to set is if you're on a date and it's going longer than you would like, then end it. Just, say, I got to go now. So nice to meet you. And if you like him, let him know that you would love to do it again sometime. But you don't have to sit for 3 hours on a date or for 3 hours listening to somebody talk nonstop. Again, you set boundaries about having a back and forth conversation. All of those things are things that you can redirect and set a boundary about what you need and what you want so that you're part of the equation. Right, Bob?
Yes, I was just typing. I wanted to make a note and I didn't want the clicking.
Okay.
There's so many. Notice all these things that Sandy brought up. These are all things that if you sit down and you do your I will and I won't, and you set your personal boundaries, then when these things come up in real life, you're not a deer in the headlights. What do I do? What do I do? Which is just such an uncomfortable feeling. When a guy goes in for a kiss or he goes in for a hug and you don't want it, and you don't have that boundary set to begin with, then what's going to happen is you're going to go, right? That's what we do. We sort of back off and look like, mad. We look angry or we look shocked. And if you want to emasculate a man that you like, do that. Okay. Do that. When he goes in for a kiss or a touch and you back off, even to this day, I've been with Larry over 10 years. It still happens. And the look on his face is like, destroyed.
Yeah.
So having these, thinking about things that come up and thinking about things that are really important to you in terms of your safety, again, not just safety, but, what feels good to you, right? So then what you'll know is when that happens, you'll know your boundary and you'll be able to say, and don't forget this part. I really like you and I'm excited to get to know you. But like Sandy said, I'm not ready for that yet. I hope that's okay with you. And just check them. I hope that's okay with you. And every once in a while, a man's going to go, no, it's not. Great, because then never to go out with it. Okay, well, we're not a good match. Have a good life. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, I want to say something. There was a guy once who contacted me and he loved to have sex right away. I mean, he just felt, and I think a lot of men feel this way, that if the sex is going to be bad, they want to know immediately. So that's their theory. I got to have sex within, a couple of dates or I'm out. And I was telling him that, a woman of value is going to probably make you wait a little longer and be okay with that. So he met this woman and she did make him wait. And it was hard for him, but he ended up in a relationship with her. They just ended it. It was probably 2 or 3 years. But it was one of the best relationships of his life. And she was definitely worth waiting for. He also had these ideas that women his age were not going to be too sexual. And again, that was a fallacy. She matched him with his sexual needs. So, you can't turn to the last page of the book before you read the book. I mean, you can, but you're not gonna know the ending unless you really get involved. And I think that people just want to protect themselves. They don't want to get hurt. So they put all kinds of crazy demands in relationships. And it's so important to be your authentic self and set your clear boundaries, because then people will treat you the way that you want to be treated.
And remember, there's a balance, right? I mean, we're not talking about he must buy me flowers twice a month, or I'll, this is really about what are your must-haves? What do you need? What do you need? Not what do you want, but what do you need in order to feel the way you want to feel and in order to be ultimately happy. And this applies, and we said we're going to talk about setting boundaries for love and life. And so I want to talk a little bit about the life part, because you can see probably how this also applies to life. So when you're setting your personal boundaries, you may be, let's say you're, the pleaser. Let's say you're the woman who's like, goes with the man who, goes along with him. And you know that about yourself. So one of your personal boundaries might be, I will be conscious of my needs and express them when they're not being met. That's a scary thing for a lot of us, right? That whole idea. So maybe you split up. I will be conscious of my needs. That could apply, of course, to all parts of life. I worked with a woman recently who we worked on. My step 2 is I'm fabulous, so what's the damn problem? And we talk about the voices in our head and our stories that we tell ourselves that get in our way, that self-sabotage. And part of that work is so often one of the stories is if I don't do what he wants me to or what someone wants me to, they're not going to like me. And so the boundaries exercise was something we did. Well, she had a real estate agent. She was selling her house. She had all kinds of stuff going on in life, and she had a real estate agent was driving her really, really crazy because she was so sort of relentless about selling her house. Come on, we have to do it. We have to do it. And she just wasn't ready. She wanted to take her time, and it had been going on for over a month. So she practiced her boundaries on a real estate agent and just said, I think you're a good agent, but I don't want to go as fast as you. I need 2 more weeks, right? Quantify when you can. I need 2 more weeks. Will that work for you? And the real estate agent said, sure.
That's awesome.
Sure, because he's working for her, right? So this isn't just about, with men. This is about with your real estate agent. This is about with your doctor. This is about with your mother. I know any of us could use boundary setting with family. Right, Sandy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually just had a family thing with my brother. So my mom was in the hospital. She had surgery, and my brother lives far away. So I called him and he to let him know what was going on. And he says to me, wow, that sounds really difficult. It sounds really hard. Let me just tell you, I'm going through a really hard time too. And he starts telling me about his hard time. Well, I was absolutely unwilling to hear about his problems. I was taking care of my mom. This was not the appropriate time to be talking about yourself and, to my brother. So, it could have been nasty to him, but I just said, you know what, I'm sorry you're going through stuff, but I don't have the bandwidth right now to hear you. Maybe some other time. So it's not shutting him off completely, but it's letting him know, you know what, that's not going to work for me. And I do that with my kids. They want to they want me now. I mean, my ex-husband, when I was still married, I used to write with him. We wrote comedy together, and he used to just call me and go, come upstairs now and write with me. Now, didn't check in with me. Was it a good time for me? Just, I need you now. And we went to therapy about this, actually, and it came up in therapy. And I said, I hate it when he does that, because it's not respectful of my time. And here's what would work better for me. So I said, if you schedule it, if you say at 2:00, I'm going to need you, I'm much better at, coming upstairs and writing with you, because you have now respected my time as I respect yours. And so that's, saying here's what works better for me is a great way to segue into that. Even when people try to give you advice that you don't want to hear, I appreciate that you really care about me. Can I let you know what would work better for me? I could hear this better than that, and again, their intention is good. They're not always being nasty to you. If it just sounds horrible. Some people are nasty, but hopefully you're not hanging out with those people too often. But yeah, it's just so important in all of life, to not go around with wishful thinking, hoping people read your mind. I mean, I grew up with that model of, why did they do this? Well, you never expressed it. No one had any idea what you wanted. So should we talk about the little boundary scripts, or did you want to say something else?
So Bobbi? I wanted to say this is like the third step, right? So the first step is for yourself, defining your boundaries. And then the second step is kindly and clearly communicating them when it's necessary. Okay. And the third step is observing what happens next. Okay. So sorry about that. That will stop. So what I mean by that is communicating it is great. Clearly and kindly is great. And really, when you do, you want to do that. Does that work for you? You want to do that. Can you live with that? Depending on what the situation is. And sometimes it's here's what I need, right? Here's what works best for me or better for me. Can we work this out together? So men love, and most people love problem solving. I think women do too at this point in our lives. So when you say, I'm not, I think you're a really good real estate agent, but I'm not ready to sell my house this quickly. Can we work out a better schedule? Right? I'm not ready, I'm not ready for physical. Well, here's a good example. It happens all the time. He's not calling you enough. I really am liking getting to know you, and I'd like to get to know you even better. And what works best for me is if we could communicate during the week, in between, like once in between our dates on the weekend. Is that something we can work out? Mm-hmm. So remember, step 3 is it's not just about communicating it; it's what happens next, right? Mm-hmm. So, but based on what he says right then or she says right then, that's important, but it's the follow-up. I'm really sorry. But it's the follow-up, and and it's not, you're not doing this so you're done, you're gone. It's working together. Make sure that you communicated clearly, and he or she understands what it is you need. And if not, you can communicate it further. And then if they're not coming through, they're not for you.
Right.
They're not a real estate agent, and he's not your man or she's not your woman.
Yeah. And it's such a good point. And I had a relationship about a year ago, and I brought up something that I was struggling with in our relationship, something that he had said. And we talked it out, and he seemed to be completely open and not defensive at all. And I loved it. I thought, this is a great guy. He knows how to talk out of feelings. He hears me. I hear him. We're having a great conversation. It's very grown up. And when I broke up with him, he brought it up again. Mm-hmm. And I realized that he had been holding it in all those months, and he threw it back in my face, and it was so ugly. And So, you can tell a lot about a person in a breakup too, and how dignified they are and how ugly they become says a lot about the person. But, I did bring up what bothered me early on because I did not want to have it fester. And I did it after I processed it. It was not immediate. He was texting. I got off text and asked for a phone call. It's all about, just trying to communicate in the most clear, compassionate way.
Yeah. And I want to say this. If you cannot, because it's really difficult for a lot of us to do this, Sandy's going to, I think we've given you some scripts and some ideas, but Sandy's going to give you some scripts coming up. Start practicing this. If it's hard for you to think of you doing it with men or with, women, like, your potential mate or someone you're dating, then start practicing with, smaller things in life, with other people. And remember that if you don't communicate, and Sandy, you and I talk about this, and this comes up in almost every, I won't say blab, but all the work we do together. If you don't communicate your needs, you can't blame the other person for not meeting them. If they don't know what you need, then you can't blame them. And what happens is we start getting angry at that other person because they're not doing what they're supposed to do. But you need to ask yourself what your responsibility is in that. And often it's, hey, I really haven't told them, right?
Yeah.
I really haven't told them. So it's really important that you take that personal responsibility. Date like a grown-up. I have 3 guiding principles. The third one is take responsibility for your actions and your outcomes. And if your outcomes aren't good, you need to make sure that you have done all you can to make it so.
Yes. Really important principle, that responsibility piece. Oh my God. And I have a fantastic client story that illustrates what you just said about if you don't express what you need, you can't blame the man for not meeting your needs, or any person for not meeting your needs. There was a woman who had been really not herself with the man she had been dating. She never really told him the things that bothered her. She just got angry. So she would call him at a time that was convenient for him, but it wasn't convenient for her, but she would do it every day because it was convenient for him. And she would cut her, her workout short to make sure that she called him on his way to work, that kind of thing. She felt bad that he didn't have enough money, so she would pay for stuff. She never checked in with him to see if he actually had any money. She just assumed that he didn't. Stuff like that over and over again. So she broke up with him. And she came to me and asked, should I get back together with him? So I said, we got to work on you first. You've got to really get clear on how to communicate with men, what your needs are. And we really worked only on that for like 3 months. And then we discussed whether she should get back together with this guy. And from everything she told me, he seemed like a good guy. It's just that she never was herself with him. So I said, you can get back together with him, but you got to do it with new agreements. You have to show up differently, and you have to let him know what you need and see if he can meet your needs. And sure enough, he was thrilled to have her back. He completely shifted everything because he was so happy to have this information. Yes. So he made all kinds of accommodations. And the most amazing thing was that he had so much more money than she ever thought. Yay! Because they talked about everything. They finally felt comfortable talking about all the scary stuff. And it's amazing what you find out when you stop making assumptions. And, I think they're going to get married now. I mean, this is like this success story. A woman never married, and she was so tired of being single, but she never realized her part in it. And so that's just such an important piece. Let's talk about some quick ways you can turn things around. And these are just really, really quick. So the statements that I like, going ouch is one of my favorite. Like if somebody's saying something and you're not happy, just ouch. And if you don't have the words right away, because that deer in the headlights, like Bobbi was, sometimes, right. Sometimes people anger you or they throw something at you and you're not ready for it. Ouch is a boundary. It's just saying that hurts. I just don't know what to say yet. And you can even say that. I'm not sure I don't even have the words yet, and I'm afraid to say anything right now because I might say something I would regret. And so I'm going to get back to you on this. And maybe it's 24 hours from now, whatever it is, but you let them know that you're not going to just gloss over it. It is something you're going to talk about when you're calm. Another one is, that's not comfortable for me, or that feels awkward to me, or I don't like it when it doesn't feel good to me. Just you're talking about yourself. That doesn't work for me is a big one for me. But what does work for you? So if you're going to say that doesn't work for me, talk about what does. That's uncomfortable. What is comfortable? I'm more comfortable with this. So when you state a boundary, you're stating both ends. You're stating what doesn't work and you're stating what does, to give the person where to go from here. Otherwise, you're just saying, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that, don't leave the cheese on the counter. Yeah. But also stating the why. If you want somebody to do something for you, to let them know why it's important to you. What will it bring? And, even taking out the garbage, it makes me feel supported when you take out the garbage. And that's so important to me. Or, a woman who wants a man to make plans, that's a big one. She gets really angry that she has to make all the plans all the time. Well, you make all the plans, and that's why you're making all the plans, because he's learned that you like to do that. And maybe you don't trust men to make the plans. So you need to let him know that you like when men make plans. And so something I might say, because I make plans and make decisions all day long as a woman who runs my own business, I might say something like that to him. Hey, you know what? I make decisions all day long and I'm constantly making plans. Boy, would I love it if you could make the plans. That's just, letting him know that, yeah, you're a strong woman, but that doesn't mean you have to do everything all the time. And in fact, you would love to have some relief. And then he feels good because he knows that you love it. So that's pretty much it. I mean, they're short little things in your back pocket that you can pull out. And so when you have to use a boundary, you can say, that doesn't work for me, this does.
Yeah. And, those are really helpful. Those are really, really, the words, right? Getting the exact words to say helps so much. Mm-hmm. We're going to wrap up soon. And I want to say, it's really important that you are selective about using that doesn't work for me, or, that kind of thing. Like the cheese thing is a really good example. I mean, seriously, Sandy, Larry does it since forever. Like he's done it forever. And there came a point at which I had to decide, am I going to set my boundary? Am I going to say, look, in order for me to feel good, I don't want to buy new cheese every week. So someone said it, put the cheese back. But so I have a personal boundary that, let's say, overrides that. I have a personal boundary that I am going to try as hard as I can to really focus on the positives about my husband, and to only bring up things that really hurt me or that I can't live with. Which is not to say I didn't tell him sometimes about the cheese, but I just have a personal boundary that I'm going to try really hard not to be judgmental and not to be bitchy and not to be, demanding about things that really don't matter. And I have another boundary that I set, that I will have a conversation with myself before I have a conversation with him. So when I got to the point of wanting to really lay into him about the stupid cheese thing, I had that conversation with myself, and I was like, okay, remember your promise that you're not going to, this is a picky thing. You can put the freaking cheese away. So it seems little, but these are the things that really screw up relationships, are these little things that we kind of latch onto. So remember, it's really important to absolutely express your needs for things that are must-haves for you, that are things that are very clearly things that you need in order to be happy, in order to feel safe, in order to feel loved.
Yes. And I want to say that with the cheese and things like that, it's the meaning we place on these things that makes us crazy. So we might say to ourselves, well, if he loved me, he would put the cheese away. If he really cared, if he listened, he would put the cheese away. People who, my daughter would leave the door open every day when she'd leave in the winter, and the front door was wide open. And I could easily have thought, well, if she really cared about me, she'd close the door. If she cared about my heat bill, she'd close the door. You can make yourself crazy.
Yeah.
So, don't interpret, understand that men are not women, women are not men. In fact, women are not women. Everybody's not the same. We don't all process in the same way. And boy, we really look at the world through our lens and think, well, I wouldn't react that way. I wouldn't do that. Well, you're not me and I'm not you. And that's why we need to communicate clearly.
And it all starts with you. I think for me, that's a really important part I had to learn. It all starts with you.
Yep.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah.
So I hope this has helped. I hope that, I think in my experience, and I think Sandy, and this is why we picked this topic, it's really, really common that we don't know how to communicate, or we don't even feel like we have the right to do it. So sometimes it's like, I shouldn't even say anything. I should just go along with it. Or sometimes like I would say something if I knew how. So then the how, I hope we've empowered you, right? I hope we've given you some real specific tools to use in your life, not just in your love life, but in your whole life, so that you can start really helping people, because that's what you're doing by doing this, helping people make you happy, because generally speaking, most people want to do that. Most people want to do that. They want to do what's best for you, and the right people are going to respect the heck out of you for doing this.
Yes.
Yeah. So
I love it.
I'll go ahead and give you what more you can do in the Date Like a Grown-Up community. Or did you have anything else, Sandy, about our topic today?
No, I think we've covered the highlights and really pretty thorough, actually giving people tools and I think what you said about you feel empowered, you do. I mean, I think people feel disempowered when they don't have the tools to deal with situations. And so they feel like, oh my God, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. Well, now you have the tools. Yeah. So you just need to practice them with everybody. And that's really important. It's the same with flirting. Women who say, well, I don't know how to flirt. Well, practice with everybody, practice being more playful, practice expressing yourself. I mean, when you're fully aligned with your values and you become fully expressed, it's like the golden ticket. You become one of the most high value people. And men really love a woman who can express herself. Yeah. It's just, it's like, I speak to some people in my life who are so unclear in their communication, and I feel like my brain is trying to track, what are you trying to say? I don't really know. I don't know. I'm confused. And you don't know what to latch onto and what they're really what they mean, because they're not clear and they're passive aggressive, and oh my God, it can make you nuts. But the opposite is also true. The people who are clear. I once had a therapist for my kids, and she was so clear about everything. Here's how I work best. Take off your shoes when you walk in. Do this, do that. This is when I want you to pay me. I mean, I loved it. I loved the clarity. Yeah. So that's what we want from everybody. So Bobbi, you have an offer.
Yeah. So I want to let people know, again, my website's Date Like a Grown-Up, but I want to let you know that I have a monthly webcast that's 100% free. We talk about a different topic every time. You have a chance to ask me questions. It's super juicy, and it really is. It is for women over 40 who are looking for love. It's my focus, and it's all about giving you the tools like we do now, and also giving you new perspectives, new information about men, about relationships, all the things that you need in order to help you find your grown-up love story. So I gave you the link there. It's datelikeagrownup.com/GGNO. It's called Grown Up Girls Night Out. So it's /GGNO. And I'd love you to join us, and it's free.
Great. And I would love you to join me in my Facebook group. I have a group called Your Last First Date, and I put the address in the sidebar there. And it's also for women over 40 who would like to have positive support, not the negative support or lack of support that you get from other people in your life, and really have some clear guidelines. I've been asking questions of the group, like what are single men to you? Just what are your biggest challenges in relationships? And it's just fascinating for me to see what people are writing, and then I can help support them. And if you would like a copy of my free guide on the top 3 mistakes that midlife daters make and how you can turn them around to find love, there's actionable steps there also, because I'm a big believer in tools and steps. And just go to my website, lastfirstdate.com, and you can sign up on my homepage. And I also have a podcast on there. I have a weekly podcast, so I would love for you to listen to that. There's just so much. Both of us have a lot of rich resources to support you. So please join us. And thank you for listening in today to learn about boundaries.
Thanks for the blab.
Okay. Bye, everybody. Bye.
Bye.